Radio Network.
Hey everybody, it's Dick Vitale of ESPN and ABC. Hey, let me tell you something. You're talking sports with Randy Harris, baby. You better listen. He's awesome with a capital A.
We are back coming to you live. Final two segments here from the Cool Breeze AC broadcast facility. This is Knockout Radio, brought to you by 8 Man Strong, Staff Zone, and Bucked Up Energy Drink. UFC this weekend. Is there a UFC next weekend?
Yes, there is.
Is that the Edwards fight?
Yeah, that's the one on ESPN now.
And Aspinall's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So big ups to him for finally taking the fight, or a fight. You know, I don't know if he's turned it down or if he was going to try to wait or whatever. You know, we've talked about, Dana talks about not waiting. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens with Tom. Let's see what happens with Jon Jones and Stipe.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think if Jon beats Stipe, do you think he walks away then, or does he fight again?
I think he has to stick around for Poatan. I really do. He has to. I mean, he even hinted at it in his last couple of tweets. Somebody asked him, "Are you going to retire?" And he said, "This is right after Poatan's last fight." And he said, "Well, things just got a lot more interesting, so we'll see."
No, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's going to be
that's $1 million fight,
multi-million.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a shame, Jon. He hasn't fought in a while. He's obviously on the downslope. I mean, he's got to be. Alex is on the way up. He's blowing up. He's the hottest thing in the UFC. We're going to find out when Ryan goes to the NSCC on Alex's cards. You know, the value and such.
Well, you know, it's funny that Jon is, if anything, if nothing else, he's very competitive. And knowing that somebody else is being talked about and surpass him in the rankings, right? That's going to get Jon's attention, and I don't think he retires after Stipe, especially if he wins.
Yeah, and well, if he wins, does he flip back? Do the people that have put him third, do they switch him back to one now?
I don't know. That's for those people, you know. It's like Dana always says, the rankings don't really matter.
No, they really don't.
They really don't.
You know, at first they thought it did because you'd see that down at the bottom of the ESPN. You know, number 2 ranked fighting number 4 ranked. But you know, when I used to be involved, and
I know.
They removed me. Whoever they are, they said that they only wanted MMA media.
Yeah, it was. I think Ariel and Ben Folks were the ones that, and what's his? I forgot the other guy's name. Tall guy. It'll come
I don't know. I just,
you know him by
a lot of people thought it was funny because mainstream, right. You know, they used to call it mainstream and non-mainstream. You know, I'm mainstream media that also covered MMA. And I'm like, that's good. Less I have to worry about. Yeah. It was a pain in the ass.
It was a pain. It really was. And also, they were taking their UFC credentials at risk, too.
For sure.
Because Dana wasn't happy when that was formed, that MMA rankings committee. Anyhow.
Well, and you know, and fighters take it personally as well.
Oh, I know.
You know, it's just like when you pick. You know, that's why I don't like picking. Yep. You know, and I've been given a hard time about it. And I remember Kenny Florian used to give me crap about it. Then he went into the media realm, and we talked, and he goes, "I get it now." Yep. You know, could you imagine if I ever picked against Eve Edwards?
Right.
You know, we are close. We're closer than blood brothers. And if I would have, which I never would have done, and now let's say I didn't think Eve was going to win, but I would still say Eve because I don't want to upset him, then I'm not doing my job properly. Right. And so that's why
you recuse yourself from all of it.
Absolutely.
And you know, one thing I always say, fighters have the thinnest skins and the longest memories. They'll remember that 20 years from now. Mike, you picked against me.
All right, so remember that with our next guest.
Heard.
We're going to head back to Denver as we get ready for this weekend's UFC on ESPN and welcome Montel Jackson. Montel, how are you?
I'm good, man. How are you guys?
Not too bad. We appreciate your time on what probably is a busy Wednesday of fight week. What is fight week like for you? And I always like to ask, do you try to keep it the same every fight week, or do you try to change it up, you know, so it's not monotonous and it's not the same?
No, I keep it the same, man. Just nothing unnecessary, nothing outside of just focusing on the fight and, you know, cutting the last couple pounds and just relaxing.
Well, it's good to hear that it's just a couple pounds and not, we were talking about Johnny Hendricks back in the day when he was 30 pounds over, 2 days, 37 pounds over before on Wednesday and still made weight on Friday. How do you relax the next couple days, do you try not to think about Christmas on Saturday, which is you back in the octagon, or do you want to think about it?
You think about it a little bit, but you don't overemphasize it.
Okay. You know, I used to cover Yanni Yaha's fights all the time, and when I saw you beat him, I wasn't shocked, you know, but I was so like that guy. I've seen him get knocked out and still somehow climb on somebody's back and choke them out, especially in his WEC days. How was that fight for you? I wanted to just keep things simple and, you know, try to be sharp and make the right decisions in the right time, and, you know, not to like fall into his game. Right.
What are you thinking during a fight? You know, we ask fighters this all the time. Are you just like on autopilot? You're not thinking and you're just doing what you do, or are you thinking, you know, 3 moves ahead? What's running through your mind?
You try to think 3 moves ahead, but ultimately you just got to be ready to just and open to make adjustments. Like wherever that takes you, you got to be ready to go there.
What is the craziest, funniest, strangest thing to ever happen, you know, with you in a fight? You know, we've been told so many stories. The one that kind of started that question, I forget who the fighter was. He was fighting an Irish fighter, and all of a sudden he hears the accent and he starts thinking of an Irish movie, you know, that brought him to it, and he kind of like spaced out for 5 or 6 seconds. And he's like, wait a second, I'm in the middle of a fist fight. I got to get back, you know. Anything crazy, strange, silly ever happen?
Yeah, like I was fighting once, and I look up. I'm like, oh shit, that dude's famous. What are you doing here?
Who was the person?
It was in North Carolina, and I saw like Grant Hill. I'm looking like, what the hell is Grant Hill doing here?
Start thinking basketball in the middle of a fight.
Yeah, right away. I'm like, I got to ask him about Detroit back in the day.
There you go.
You know, your time away from the octagon hasn't been your fault. I mean, you had one injury that was the first time it got knocked out, but then you said there was a lot of bad timing with fights that were trying to be made for you. You and I think Jason House is your manager. Am I right about that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you'd say, Jason would get a call, then he'd call you, and you know, and you said to them, if they call me, I am going to say yes, no matter who it is. But, you know, that's why they called Jason first. So this coming back to the octagon after a year out, is it emotional for you? And do you feel like you lost, you know, a little bit of your prime?
No, hell no, because I was still putting the work in.
Good.
I noticed that you originally had the fight scheduled for, I think it was last month, and I always ask this as well. You know, when you're in a long camp and a fight's coming up and then it gets postponed, and in this case it was only a little over a month, does that kind of like rejuvenate you towards the end of the fight camp that, you know, it's now a couple more weeks, but it's a new opponent, kind of like refocus?
A little bit, but not really, man. You just got to just keep doing the work, man. Keep doing the work and not worried about stuff you can't control or change.
Well, what do you think Blackshear is going to bring to the table on Saturday?
I don't know, man. Hopefully you come out fighting. That's one thing I can hope for.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Nothing else you can say there.
There's nothing else you can say about that. As far as your game plan, not that you're going to tell us your game plan, but has it changed since your time off? Have you worked on new things that maybe while you were on a roll, you wouldn't have tried some new things, and maybe you have time now to work on some new stuff?
Yeah, of course. Like, you always look to improve, and you want to look better than you looked the previous fight. So, hell yeah.
Good.
I always chuckle, you know, whether it's media, you know, whether it's a fighter says game plan. You know, I have a game plan. It's kind of like when people have said, all right, you're going to interview my client, send me 10 questions. And I'm like, well, how can I send you the second question when I don't know how they're going to answer the first one? So kind of like a game plan is the same thing. Right. If, you know, both guys have game plans, but if it doesn't start the way the opponent or you're thinking, doesn't that kind of throw the game plan out the window?
Yeah, man, that's why like I really don't plan or like try to do game plans or anything like that, because how this guy fought the previous guy, he's not gonna fight you like that.
Yeah.
Or how he fought that first minute, he might not fight the rest of the round like that.
Right.
So you just got to be ready to make adjustments.
Well as you. You may not, you may change something, you may adjust, and it's going to throw the game plan that you had because now you're doing something different as well.
Of course. You just got to see what they offering and try to take advantage.
Yeah, so this fight on Saturday night, what implications does it have? I mean, obviously, you always want to win. Of course, I know that answer. But what does a win for you? What does it do for you at this point in your career?
Just keep stacking them up, and just look forward to where it's going to take me.
Stacking them up and knocking them down. So a good friend of mine, Marcus Jones, he played in the NFL. He was the #1 draft pick of the Bucs. Then he went into MMA. He fought the UFC. UFC 100, I think, was when he was on The Ultimate Fighter. And he used to tell me, I don't like football. I'm just good at it. And I like to ask fighters that. I mean, do you like what you do, or are you just good at it and it's what you do?
No, of course I like fighting. I've been fighting my whole life.
Mm-hmm. I guess I say the same thing about eating. I like to eat. I don't want to fight. I just want to eat. Montel, what can the fans expect, on Saturday when you get back in the octagon?
A banger. Don't miss it.
Don't go get popcorn. Sit there and watch. Awesome.
All right,
Montel, thank you for your time. I know we have your address. We're going to send you a care package from 8 Man Strong, as well as a box from Bucked Up Energy Drink as well for your time.
Hell yeah. Thank you, man.
All right,
enjoy the day. Enjoy the fight. It's Christmas on Saturday.
Yes, sir.
Take care. Montel Jackson back in the octagon Saturday, UFC on ESPN from Denver, Colorado. And I'm going to be there.
You always, I like when you ask, what's fight week like for you? And I've been in a lot of fights, and I'm friends with a lot of fighters, so I've spent a lot of time with fighters during their fight week. And it's kind of boring. They sit around the room, watch movies, then they go put their work in, go back, watch more movies.
What's the first thing that you think of when you've hung out with any fighter? What's the first episode, the first thing that pops in your mind?
What do you mean?
Well, you've been with these fighters during fight week.
Oh, you mean like what?
Just something that, all right, I'll tell you mine, and then you can.
Okay.
Of all the time that I've spent with all these fighters, the first thing I think about, the only thing I think about, is time I spent with Rich Franklin on Thursday at MGM. We're eating lunch, and he's staring at me like he's going to eat me, not the food. He was so hangry. Yep. Is that what it's called? Yeah. And Rich is the nicest guy in the world.
He is.
And that Thursday was the most uncomfortable time I spent with him and George Gagel. So it's just something like that. Just something that is the first thing that pops in your mind of all of your time.
First thing that pops in my mind. This is going to sound crazy, but I was
welcome to the show.
Hanging out with Sean Tompkins and Sam Stout and Chris Hordecki and who's it doesn't matter. The other one from London, Ontario, in the same group with Hordecki and Sean Tompkins, blonde hair, Mark Hominick. So we're all hanging out, and we're hanging out after the fights. So it's Saturday night. We go after the fights, and Sam Stout has stitches in his face. I think Hordecki fought. He's got stitches in his face, and we're all at this bar drinking. And next thing you know, we're all punching each other. And it just escalated. Like, I think Sean punched me in the face, and I started laughing. He goes, "Come on, hit me back." I go, "I'm not going to hit you back, Sean." He goes, "Hit me back." So I hit him. And next thing you know, everybody's throwing punches. And we're all together, we're all friends. And there's about 15 security guards that came and created a circle around us. And we all stop and look, and we're like, we're all friends. And they're like, "We don't care. Get out.
Get out.
Get out." We were just laughing all the way back to the hotel, just laughing. Like, what were we thinking? Of course we were going to get thrown out.
All right. I want to ask you the same question, Matt. When you're selling